Hello, Talk fans. Welcome back to No Coast Defenders with the two most dashing, non-superpowered heroes out there. How you doing today, Dan?
I'm good, my friend. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. Do you have any comic book media news you'd like to share with before we get going?
Just that if you are looking to avoid spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home, you have until 10:30 Pacific Standard Time tonight to mute every channel that you follow and every pop culture trend that you follow, and you've been warned. Well, when you hear this, it'll be the morning. Just mute it all. Mute everything you can as soon as you hear this.
Yeah, we will not be giving spoilers here. I'm actually not going to see it for a couple of weeks, so I think that's a good time to lay out kind of the agenda. For me, I'm probably not going to watch it until after we're done with Hawkeye. Simply, as you know, I'm trying to avoid crowded theaters. So,
Yep. If I didn't have a private screening on Thursday, I would not be seeing it either.
so it would. For those who are interested in when we're going to talk about it, we won't talk about it until after Hawkeye. I feel like we're definitely going to need a full episode to dedicate to it. So this gives everyone else a couple weeks for those who either couldn't get tickets, because I know tickets went quick in a lot of markets,
Yeah.
or those like myself who aren't trusting a full theater and don't have fancy private screenings like Dan here. So we will be talking about it after Hawkeye, depending on how everything shakes out. We might wait until after Christmas, I think. Maybe we'll take a break that week of Christmas.
I do know a large chunk of people who are waiting until Christmas to see it, with the logic that most people would have already seen it and the theater will be empty. However, they're losing sight of the fact that most people go to the movies on Christmas too. So,
Yeah, as you know, I'm a Christmas Day movie goer, although I didn't go last year, obviously, because of COVID. And the year before, I didn't go either because my roommate, Amy, who friend or viewers of my friends like cool shit are familiar with Amy, but she had her boyfriend's mother and brother over for Christmas breakfast one year, the year before last. So I had Christmas breakfast with them, and then I spent the day at a bookstore in my neighborhood in Pittsburgh at the time. So that was my Christmas that year. But I'm a big Christmas movie goer, and you have to go early. You have to be there at like 10 a.m. for one of those early showings because it is crowded by the 12 o'clock showing. So,
oh yeah.
but I mean, I've now done Christmas Day movies in 4 different states, so in many different theaters. I love it. It's a wonderful activity to do on Christmas Day if you're not a big Christmas person. So more power to you folks. But yeah, it's probably still going to be crazy, especially for those who might be waiting to do it with the kids. So good luck with that.
Yeah.
All right. So now that that's out of the way, I have a casting question for you, one of our hypotheticals. And of course, I'm just now on a Justified kick since we recast where I wanted Walton Goggins. Because it wasn't a big enough role for it. Like, Goggins is too talented to be like a secondary villain in a secondary Marvel film. No offense to Ant-Man, but it is a secondary Marvel film. Like, I think Ant-Man's are fantastic, but it is. So let's go with, well, we talked about Sam Elliott too, who did a stint on Justified. So we've done a lot of Justified already, and we're gonna keep with it. Maybe. I really want. No, let's talk about Raylan Gibbons himself. Did you watch Justified, I guess, is the question, before I just throw out a character name?
I actually didn't, but I am familiar with many of the cast members.
Okay, so Timothy Olyphant is Raylan Gibbons, who might be reprising that role in another film. But where could you see Timothy Olyphant in the MCU, or if you want to throw any other comic book related project?
Well, it's already cast, but I could have seen him as Eros, actually. The way of Harry Styles, just mainly because of that sweet hair, to be quite honest, that he often has. I think I could see him as a Mr. Sinister.
You know, he plays Goofy well enough to be a Mr. Sinister too.
Mhm.
And with the already cast, I think he would have been a great Jack Duquesne, like a different Jack Duquesne than we're seeing, but like that that country like circus performer. I
Yeah.
mean, Oliphant has been Raylan Givens, where he was from Kentucky. I mean, he was in Deadwood, so he's played that like that Southern drawl type guy, and I could just see him being a good Jack Duquesne. But Eros is good too. I think he's a little old for the way they're going.
Yeah.
And Oliphant's a handsome man. I don't know if I'd necessarily call him like a pretty boy like they're going with the Eros. So that would be tough.
It's just the hair for me. I like that hair for Arrows.
And they're going younger with like the new Batman stuff, but
Yeah.
I could see him being one of the more cerebral Batman villains too. Just he can, as an actor, he can talk, like he can chew a scene really well. So I wouldn't mind him as a Two-Face.
I could see that. Yeah, you know how I tend to keep a 10-foot pole between myself and the DC projects, but I can see that.
Yeah. He's just the voice of Detective Chimp.
Let's take it. I could go with that, definitely.
It'd be the best Detective Chimp adaptation ever. I think any Detective Chimp adaptation would be the best.
I'm ready for it.
Okay, let's talk this episode of Hawkeye. It's the 4th episode with 2 more to go. This was the shortest episode with like a 30-minute total runtime.
Yeah.
But I thought they accomplished a lot in this 30 minutes. What were your overall opinions of this episode?
This, and I'm saying this in a good way, this is the first one of the Disney Plus series where I wish I had waited till they were all out to binge it, because you start it and it's just this nonstop race to the finish, and then you're like, oh, all right, now I have to wait a week. And there's so much going on and so many little details. And as much as I didn't enjoy the Black Widow film, there's so many callbacks kind of, so I went back and rewatched it. There's so many little callbacks between Natasha and Yelena, and her coming into this now with Clint, so it's gonna be interesting to see the angle they take. But yeah, I don't know, just that fight scene on the roof was great. The campiness going on is great. I love the dynamics of all the characters. And as Zoe has said numerous times now, Lucky the Pizza Dog needs more scenes, but I won't hold that against the show, because it's not the Lucky and Pizza Dog show that I'm hoping becomes a spinoff. But it's man, it's just fun.
It really is fun, and they just started right in. I think we both thought we were going to get a sword fight to start out this episode, and it was a big swerve right away with it just being sitting at the table having a drink.
Yeah.
But I thought there's a lot of Eleanor in that early scene that really implied that she is one of the big bats.
Yeah, definitely up to no good. And almost like that, like trying to chase Clint off the scent, like she's a kid, leave her be, we can leave this one alone kind of thing.
Yeah. And it wasn't like just, not that I don't think she's worried about her daughter, but it was very much no, I want you off this case, and pressing hard for the case. And if she could see that someone accessed her account at Bishop Security, she could definitely see what they were accessing. So I think she knows exactly what.
Not to mention that they probably have cameras focused right on the laptop they were at in the house, But how the hell did we get from drinking frozen daiquiris from the freezer and using them as ice packs to this rooftop fight in a matter of like 2 minutes? Like, how the hell did that even happen?
Yeah, that was,
and not a bad way. It's just like their use of time is amazing.
It really is. I mean, the bonding in that scene. Well, before we move to that scene, was there anything in the Bishop apartment you want to touch upon before we go on to this next? I mean, the Ronin sword, but I feel like that's going to come into play a little bit later.
Yeah. I'm trying to leave that one alone a little bit, because I really don't know what direction they're going in with just 2 episodes left, because we now have so many layers to this empire, I guess you could say, as we move into the next shows and everything. it's hard to see a resolution. It's hard to see it end with just one season, but I have no idea where we're going to end up at this point. Like how relevant is this stuff, or even was a Bombshell, or yeah,
Yeah,
like
Bombshell.
how relevant is any of this stuff right now, as opposed to where is it going to lead to in the future?
Yeah, Bombshell. I was gonna bring up, but she just definitely felt like a super Easter egg.
Yeah, and
May
one
or
who
may
doesn't
not
fit
come into
in.
play in a later series, but it doesn't have to. It was just that. It was just a bombshell. But I feel like Jack Duquesne, we've been thinking he was red herring this whole time. In fact, we didn't get a sword fight here, and that he's Kazi's boss in a money laundering thing makes me
Yeah,
think he's definitely just a red herring. Like I heard him described as the fun himbo to throw you off the set.
yeah, and it very well could be, because I mean, they've said the big guy numerous times and all that stuff. So clearly he's not the number one. But I feel like he thinks he's the number one in many ways, and so it's like just that bravado, but it's fun to watch, the mannerisms and stuff like that. I'm wondering, and the only thing I didn't like was the Bombshell with the bag and stuff. Like, yeah, it was funny and everything, but I was like, what a way to work that in there. But what if he never gives that bag back, and that's why she comes after him in Echo? Like this like the long con of like, she's gonna be an assassin on his ass simply because he just didn't give back the bag.
Yeah, well, and as far as Bombshell being a villain at a later date, not even with relating to the character, if you know nothing about the character, she agreed to do evidence tampering awfully quick. She was just
Very
on
nice.
it.
Very much so.
So I thought the whole Christmas decoration scene between Kate and Clint was just so amazing. I think just the fact that she remembered Ugly Sweater Night and movie marathon, and that's what he was supposed to be doing with the family, and she just shows up with that. Hopefully, she's got her credit card turned back on.
Well, I think they're showing, yeah, she's a kid or whatever, kind of the reference, but they're showing just how observant she is, her ability to plan, all these little elements of this character, and how, she doesn't just develop as, this archer and this hero, but there's a lot more adult to her than what folks are giving her credit for, everybody around her. So it's these little things that show that she's ready to be a leader and, go out on her own and things like that. And that in many ways, it also shows that, Clint's it's okay if he goes to his family, she's getting there. She's going to be all right.
Yeah, it's been great how they show both how observant and how much she wants this, as well as how young and immature she still is, because she's very, very observant, goes in that. She goads Clint into teaching her the trick with the quarter, which I've heard a lot of people complain about that. Like, first, there's a time constraint in a television series. Second, she's an expert marks person. Like, she's been training to be a marksman, so it is believable she could learn this quicker than your average person. But also, if that's what you're going to choose to nitpick, get off of it. It's not worth nitpicking. It was a fun scene and just showed them bonding. But she's walking around with a bow still. She invites the LARPers back because she's gonna
That was great. That was
get
great.
them fabric. And I thought that was really important because it's very reminiscent of Grills grilling on the roof in the Fraction Run to show the camaraderie and the human side. So I thought that was important, but it was showed how very young she is. And then when Clint's gonna break into what we learn is Echo's apartment, and she's like, I can do it. And she just crosses the street and gets in the way a kid would do in this day and age. Yep. It's like so easy.
And then jumps in that elevator.
Yeah. But then at the same time, she's like bragging about being friends with an Avenger. Like, so it's very give or take. And then she gets in, she breaks in pretty easily, but doesn't notice the alarm going overhead. And they make it clearly obvious to the viewer, but it's not going to be obvious to her because she's not looking for it. So it was really great way to show how young she is. Which sets up, I think, the end pretty well. But before we get to that, Laura does some pretty great spy work.
Yeah, stuff I wasn't expecting in the least bit. And I'm wondering if that kind of changed after the blip. All of a sudden she's in tune with this, because it's clear there's no secrets between them. And something's up there.
Well, who was she before she married Clinton Barton? Why is the farm off the books of even S.H.I.E.L.D. so only Nat and Fury were aware of it? Was she Mockingbird? Was she an assassin that wanted out? Was she the assassin that wanted out, not Nat?
Very well be. And I think they didn't just bring back Linda Cardellini just to bring her back. I think we're really going to find out the depths of that. And I don't think it'll be this season. I think it'll be down the road. I don't know, man. I'm getting some old man Hawkeye vibes coming here where I don't think we're quite done with Renner, but I don't think he's going to be in the same capacity. And I think it's going to be something a little different. So,
yeah, it's interesting. Like we'd mentioned the watch and weren't sure if it was going to go anywhere. And it clearly is.
Yeah.
Since he mentions, he's very clear about not giving a gender when he's talking about the old friend whose identity is tied to the watch. There's a lot of great theories running around online. The number one being that this is Mockingbird. I know we've got one in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like she's never called Mockingbird in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So
yeah,
you could make, I think, Laura, was it Agent 19? Is that what Mockingbird is? Like,
yeah,
very easy. She could be the original Ronin.
There's that too. I'm not sure how deep they're going to go with a lot of this stuff, and it's hard to tell when we have 8 episodes there and 23 projects popping up between now and when we get there. And, these characters just aren't getting younger. So to see them in action or whatever, are we going to have a younger person play people? It's really interesting to me to see where these come, but part of me wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden she comes back and helps get him home for Christmas. So
yeah,
that'd be pretty
also
cool.
One of the things that this show has been emphasized in this episode hit it really, really hard is Clint trying to remind Kate that he's a ghost.
Yeah.
He says point blank, I'm a weapon who had been pointed at the right people. And so if Laura is not in New York City with them because she can't leave the farm because her identity is that secret, I think that says something without her having to be a bigger part of just Kate taking it in.
And how many times have we seen her now where she's just tied to that place?
Yeah, we've never seen her off the farm.
Yeah.
And with this show, I think we all just kind of assumed it was easier to get her in if she's just doing it on a green screen or anything, but maybe there is more to that.
Yeah.
Some other people that I've heard that could be the watch is the watch could be tied to Fury, and we need to get Fury back because we're about to get Secret Invasion.
Yep.
And the other is, and this would kind of fit back into a little bit of the comic, is it William Lopez?
I think that would make a lot of sense, especially for Maya to have it. And I was wondering if more they're using it as a prop to show like why she's tracking him, his family, and all that stuff more than anything else. But I mean, to be William Lopez would make complete sense.
And it's something mentioned with the casting. This is such a great actor to have killed in just a couple scenes.
Yeah.
And so if the watch is his identity and reveals that he was actually turned on Kingpin and that's why he was killed, because it just doesn't feel like that Barton Ronin is who killed William Lopez. So
right.
It's just interesting. I don't mind the Fury thing, but I feel like if it's not Laura or William Lopez on there, like why does Clint care so much about this?
And I mean, there is the Stark tech component that could be on the watch as well. Who knows what's out there and it's programmed or whatever. And I don't know, man. I hope this is one where, much like when Loki ended and they announced a season 2 kind of thing, I hope that we get that because to be honest, if they explain every single thing right now, or even in the Echo show, it'll feel rushed to me because there are so many things to explore. But at the same time, they've used their time very wisely, so they could explain the meaning of life to me probably in the first 12 seconds of the next episode. I'd be like, oh, that makes sense. So I've got a million burning questions, and I just hope that they get answered. But it's all the little stuff they're putting in that makes it feel so much bigger. And I know that we are going into more of the street level stuff. So, Daredevil can incorporate some of this stuff and things like that. And so I'm wondering if a lot of this is um, breadcrumbs for like our street level heroes to come. And that also kind of excites me.
Yeah, and he's another one I've heard rumored to be like the owner of the watch is Daredevil. It just feels like, and I know this is hard to say because they introduced Kang at the very last episode of Loki, but they gave him a whole episode.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it's a little late in a series that has so many questions to introduce a new character. That's why like Laura feels right.
Mm-hmm.
William Lopez feels right. And even Nick Fury, you don't need to introduce Nick Fury. Like we know who he is throughout.
Yeah.
So it would feel weird that to usher Daredevil in here. But the fact that Laura mentioned the watch unprompted and knew like the tracking and everything just makes me think like, yes, it's clear they're very like close to it. But it's just like, why is it so important immediately to her if it's not tied to her identity? And who knows? This could be a red herring in itself. Like the whole watch could just have Hawkeye's identity on it, and that's why Clint's protecting
the watch could have just been a tool to get them there to look for it so they come across Maya instead of the fight. Like it could just be such a minor thing like that too.
Yeah.
So which was my first take on it. So my first watch, I was like, I was like, okay, cool, whatever, got her there. And then the second time I watched it, I was kind of like, I wonder if this means anything. And I feel like, so I was talking at the comic shop on Sunday with Tim and then Chet, the owner of Rhinos. And Chet pointed out, this is why they need a comic book writer on a show. And we're seeing all those elements because the world building that's taking place, how quickly it moves, it's like panel to panel, And so all of these things don't have to matter right now. They could matter 6 issues from now. They could matter in volume 2 as opposed to volume 1, on a callback. And so it's these little things that in some ways it's like a good spy drama kind of thing where what's that? And then you find out none of it mattered right now. And then all of a sudden, you get 20 issues later and there's a cameo and boom, there it is. Which is what, as he pointed out, that's what makes first appearances in books so fun. That's what makes, new identities so fun and stuff like that. So having a comic book writer on this show has led to us wondering what all these little things are. And they could be nothing at all right now and still be pertinent,
Yeah. So the big question I wrote down, other than the watch and Laura, who Laura is, like other than just Clint's wife, who did Eleanor call when Clint left the apartment?
Yeah, I do you think she has access to the big guy?
I think she probably does, but I don't know. My biggest thing is it felt like whoever she called, whether it was Yelena straight up or Val or Kingpin, it felt like that call was what summoned Yelena there.
Well, so this is what kind of was weird to me is they say the big guy and everything else like that, but we still have Valentina out there whose last interaction we saw was with Yelena. How is she connected to this? And we know we're getting like a Thunderbolt at some point, and so she's putting this stuff together. Is she potentially the big bad because they've been giving her to us, or where does she fit in? And I feel like there's just that piece that's left out right now where Yelena just magically appears. So is she working for them, or is she contracted through her new boss?
Yeah, she's definitely super well connected, as evidenced by the fact that the picture she shows of Clint to Yelena at the end of Black Widow and the Stinger is him as Ronin.
Yeah.
He's in the Ronin costume unmasked, so she knows Clint is Ronin. And so is she working with Kingpin? Does Kingpin know?
Right.
Does Eleanor know? Because it just definitely feels like Yelena went right from Ohio to New York City, which has been confirmed by the director of, I believe, Black Widow, was that the Stinger was supposed to be immediately before her appearance in the Hawkeye series, which Ohio to New York is a trip you could make in a day.
Yeah.
If you want to.
So here's what what I was just reading today, because anytime I have a theory, I Google it. I see it. Has anybody else had this idea? Or I jump on Twitter, and I was just kind of looking up the Valentina connection, everything like that. And it turns out that the producers for Hawkeye purposely didn't show the end credit scene of Black Widow to the writing staff for Hawkeye. So they knew they were using Yelena, but they didn't know anything else beyond that. So I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? Because they had this show like in post-production when Black Widow came out. So I'm just like, so what does that do for the development? Is she just somebody who completely is tied to all things like street illegal at this point, or is she just a hired hand who works for various people, or does Valentina already have some real meaning? So I don't necessarily go to Elena. I go to how is Valentina connected in here, because that's the last person we saw with her.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know for sure that Yelena wasn't the Ronin that killed
Very true.
Lopez. Like, was she hired? Because especially that would have been still why she was like definitely a Black Widow assassin, not like doing freelance stuff. So,
and is she trying to get her suit back?
Yeah, there's a lot that we're just going to have to watch, which is fun. But the Christmas scene, when she asked about his greatest shot and a shot he didn't take, it definitely feels like it's Nat. And if it is, like, that's where he met Laura and that's who he was talking about.
Yep.
I wouldn't be mad, but it definitely felt Nat. And do you know which Christmas movie was playing in the background of that scene?
I guess I wasn't paying attention. That was a very tender moment. So I don't think I even noticed.
I didn't catch it the first time. I guess I saw it, but I wasn't paying attention. But It's a Wonderful Life.
What was it? It's Wonderful. Yes, I do remember, because I hate that freaking movie. And I remember saying to Laura next to me, I hate this fucking movie. Yes, it was. It's a Wonderful
Yeah.
Life.
And of course, like, he's embracing the kids in that scene, like behind Clint's head. Very, very poignant and stuff. But it was very touching and tender. Of course, then as he's trying to fall asleep, we get a Ronin scene that we did not get in the Avengers, which they did say they were going to use the scene that was filmed for that was cut. So that's probably what it was. And then we see Nat falling, which we then get Clint on the roof holding on to Kate as she is thrown off the roof, but with the clip attached, because Yelena made sure to attach the clip. And then it just triggers everything for Clint. And of course, I think Clint knows how dangerous a Black Widow assassin is.
Yeah.
And I think just the whole episode was setting up for this fallout, and there had to be a fallout. Like, it's not a buddy series without some sort of fallout.
Right.
And Clint's right. Like, it jumped up. Like, this isn't a game.
Yeah. I just, it all just happened so damn fast. I watched the episode 3 times now. And I don't know if it's because I'm old. I did too many drugs in past years, what it is, but Zoe picks up on all this random little shit. And I'm like, huh? And so I have to go back and rewatch it. Yeah, it's the Elena thing with 2 episodes left really intrigues me. And that's why I'm thinking that's going to be carried over to Echo. I don't think we're going to get a real resolution on that. I mean, I think we have, what is it, an hour and 10 minutes left right now of runtime, not counting credits.
Yeah.
I think with the 2 episodes, that's not a whole lot, but with the way this show is going, that's also so much. But I don't think everything's going to be tied up. I don't think we'll get all our answers. If Kingpin is in it or a big bad, I don't really think we'll get much of him until the very end of the series, where it's like a nod of like, oh, here he is. Because that's what an oh shit way to end the moment to end the series, And I mean, Echo starts soon after too, and that's where I think you'll dive into the criminal side of it all, which it would be a cool spin, to be honest. When they remember, I was surprised when they gave that series the green light of just the Echo series, just because of how little folks know about her and stuff. But if that's how they explore the criminal underworld of all of this, that's genius. If they use Hawkeye to set all that up, and then they give us the other side of it, I mean, that's just brilliant.
Yeah, it very much felt with the scene between Kazi and Clint in this episode that Kazi wants more. And so I could see the Kingpin thing being just like, an end credit, as much as I don't hate end credits, which has been great about the series that we're not having to deal with it. But I could see it like Kingpin, Eleanor telling Kazi he's now leading the Tracksuit Mafia. Like that could be it, because like I feel like we're not going to get a resolution to the Echo thing because it'll have to involve Kingpin, but we're going to find out that Kingpin had her father killed. I feel like that's almost a lock. I don't want to say anything's a lock in the series, but I feel like that's going. And
it's the most likely. It's the most likely thing, because then we need the redemption arc of Echo.
Yeah, and I'd say that's 1A, and 1B is going to be the friendship between the new Widow and the new Hawkeye, since we saw Elena make sure Kate wasn't hurt, and Kate had the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Kate had the shot. Now, of course, like
Widow, the shot she didn't take. The shot she didn't take. Yeah,
which it very much set up that. So I think that's going to be it. I mean, really, I think if the surefire lock isn't Clint makes it home for Christmas, this series is a letdown, because they decided to pick a heartwarming gotta get home for Christmas story. And if he doesn't get home, it's probably more realistic to what Clint Barton is, but it'll be kind of disappointing.
If he doesn't get home, my holiday's ruined. I'm done. No more MCU for me. Boycott.
I can understand that, actually.
I mean, Linda Cardellini is a home wrecker. She did ruin Corey and Topanga for a little bit. I have yet to forgive her for that one from the ski lodge. But
I mean, she also dumped Jason Segel when he was naked. So
it's true.
Which just led to a hilarious scene in a movie. So
what a baller move. Yeah. But no, if it doesn't end with him getting home for Christmas, and I'm dragging Zoe through this whole series for something other than that, unless it's, Lucky saying it was me all along and barking along with some pizza, it's a wrap for me.
Yeah, they're pushing it hard with it, because it's not like he's had a conversation with Laura since the kids went back that they're not in the background, and the kids say something every time. Like she doesn't even just text him without the kids noticing it. So he has to make it home. Otherwise, it was kind of pointless to set it at Christmas, I think.
Now, does he make it home and he's followed by somebody else? Because that's a whole other avenue too, which I could see happening. They have to leave some sort of cliffhanger. And to be quite honest, as excited as I was about the idea of Kingpin, like it no longer excites me, because I know we're going to see him at some point. So it's not if, it's a win. So I'm kind of past that now, and I just really want to know where we're going to end with this.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I'm really still excited about with the Kingpin thing is whether or not they're going to go with the rumor of making Kingpin very large, more like the comic books, or they're just going to let D'Onofrio be D'Onofrio, which is how they should go. But
God, yeah,
that's more of a not excited about, but nervous about.
It's one of those, and I'm hoping they're going to go with the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" method. And as vocal as D'Onofrio has been for the last year about coming back, I think before that was even a thought, he's like, "Hey, I'm ready." So, yeah, I think they'll go the right direction with that one.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that we've seen, I think, the best version of the Hulk in the MCU, even though he's not getting his own series, and that's because he was the first person that actually acted the CGI Hulk. Yeah. So it becomes the most real performance of all these CGI. And I think the more natural you can let these performances be, the better it's going to be. So don't do a giant CGI Kingpin. Like,
not just that, but we have finally our first series where it's not about really superpowers. It's not about space. It's not about the CGI. It's just street level fighting. And that's what was so beautiful and pure about the Daredevil series, even, and that's what I've been enjoying the most about this is it's all just real shit in New York City. Like I can roll with that. Yeah, I don't know. It's finally the first series where I don't even care about speculating on it, because I'm just so excited about the potential of what could happen that I just sit back and enjoy it. And it's those little nods like Bombshell and all that stuff. I'm like, are they doing that just for the reader fans, or are they doing that because it means something down the road?
Yeah. Now that we've seen Grills in a second episode, how dead is he?
Yeah, pretty dead.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping, since it's like this one's supposed to be a Christmas tale, that maybe he's not dead. But when he's in a second and he's handing out snickerdoodles, and I'm like,
No, he's
Shit,
dead.
he's dead. But also, like, it's not a bad thing because Kate is going to get disappointed when her mother turns out to be the villain and her father, Derek, turns out to be alive and also a villain. She's going to have some disappointment and some heartbreak from that betrayal.
Yeah.
But I feel like her inviting the LARPers in and getting them more involved and Grill's dying, that's going to really, really impact her and drive home what Clint has been saying about the toll this life takes.
But that's also the moment that she really grows up and takes it all much more seriously and becomes more calculated in what she's doing too. I think it's necessary, to be honest.
And maybe that death combined with like the betrayal of one or both of her parents is what pushes her not necessarily away from Clint, but more towards Yelena.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like that friendship is going to come. And just based on, not that Clint and Nat don't have a great relationship in the comic books, but I think of Nat in the comic books as more of a relationship with Bucky, more of a relationship with Steve. Whereas this series, like, she's had those relationships, but like her and Clint, like, she wears an arrow necklace, like she knows about Clint's family on the farm, which might be because she maybe brought Laura from the dark side with Clint. Right. Like, so Laura helped Clint bring that from the dark side. Like, we don't know. We might get an answer to that. We might not. The Laura thing might be completely wrong on my behalf, but there seems to be, like, in the MCU, Hawkeye and Widow, they're the two. They're the combination. So doing in that same thing with a younger combination is great.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that.
And who better to train Kate, because like she's a great archer, she's a great marksman. We've learned that. She's smart, if not still immature, but she doesn't have that fighting experience, and getting some Widow training would definitely help that. Like, I don't know if it's going to be in an Next Adventures film or one of the street level films. Like, are they going to show up together in the Echo series? I don't know.
Yeah, I could see the three of them on there taking shit on together, to be honest. So we're definitely moving more towards this younger power group, and I like the creative way that they're being introduced. And I mean, Haley Steinfeld can carry for the next 10-15 years, whatever they need for this, great casting choice there. And if we're seeing the development of a new leader, I mean, shit, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, and both Florence Pugh and Haley Steinfeld look like they're having fun.
Yeah.
And from what I'm seeing, like in reports and everything, they want to be part of this, which Florence Pugh is a little more surprising because like does Greta Gerwig films.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if she's having fun, like she's still so they're both still so young. But if they're having fun and want to do this for the next 10 years, like, good for them, especially if they're going to do the series. Like, if they both signed on just to do like the MCU series, like, hey, we'll do like 2 episodes each series, but not the big movies.
Yeah.
That workload, it won't be nearly as tough for them. They just have to stay in shape, which doesn't seem to be a problem for either of them.
No.
So.
I'm all for it.
For you and I, that would be a huge problem, but not for them.
Oh, yeah. I'm all about it.
I'm just so intrigued where these episodes are going to go. Loving that we're not having to do end credits, although I'm still having to fast forward them because who knows when they're going to show up.
I'm guessing either 5 or 6. We're going to get one no matter what.
Well, 5 and 6 has been the trend for the other series, so we'll probably get both, which is unfortunate. It just feels like 5 might set up for whatever's going to happen in 6, and 6 will set up for Echo.
Which I think in some ways they need to, just because there's so much, especially for setting up Echo, because there could be a nice 1-minute end credit where that means they can save 10 minutes for the series and introduce some other stuff. Simply linking that, where it's not like one of the movies where it's like, hey, here's this end credit scene. It's going to matter 10 movies from now. If it's just a simple setting up of Echo, I'd be all for it if they can use that as a minute to save us stuff down the road to get more stuff going.
So through episode 4 of Hawkeye, how does that change what you're most looking forward to in the future MCU television projects? Or does it?
It really doesn't at all, because there's none of them feel connected at this point, really. I can see the connection of She-Hulk to Hawkeye, simply because of the other players involved, but Moon Knight's in a land of its own kind of thing. And, I'm pumped for my Wakanda series whenever that gets here. They all feel very standalone in so many ways. So it doesn't change kind of how I'm looking at any of it. I just hope that more of them follow the style that we're seeing with this series, where it was very bare bones and humanistic as opposed to trying too hard. And I really appreciate that. And so it doesn't change what I'm looking forward to or change any of my perceptions of what's coming out. I've just enjoyed this much more than anything else we've had so far.
Yeah, and as you know, like from even with the casting of Echo, I was super excited for Echo. And then when they announced the series, I was super excited because how much more of a blank slate they had with Echo versus other characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if like seeing how great she has been so far has made me more excited for it. But I think that was the one I was most excited for before. But I think just how well she's done maybe has increased my excitement for Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Just because the concern is with a first time actor, how they're going to handle a series.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't seem like they made a misstep with the casting of Maya Lopez. So
there are very few.
With Kamal Khan, they also did not make a misstep.
Oh, no, I think it's going to be great. There are very few characters that they've really made any mistakes with, and the ones that they have, they've rectified. So I have a lot of trust in their process, especially since they give the filmmakers a lot more control over who does what and who they bring in at this point. And as patient as they are, even with like somebody like Ryan Coogler, who has to get everything exactly how he wants it with exactly who he wants it and things like that, they still stand back and give them that space. So whenever any of these folks are cast, I don't question it. I just go along for the ride. Like I know when Brie Larson was cast as Captain Marvel, it's like, oh, what are they doing? And to be honest, she would be great for the role. The writing for her thus far has just sucked. That hasn't been on her at all. I think she is solid casting for that role. She just needs better writing. And in many ways, she was shoehorned in to play a part in their, where they were going with things, as opposed to the organic nature that we have for this phase where everybody's kind of doing their own thing and seeing where they fit. She was made to fit in a certain part. So that didn't help either. So like the project I'm most looking forward to right now is the Marvels. To be honest, the movie, I do get my Rambo back and all that stuff, but I think that's gonna be a really fun project that's going to be made where it's actually gonna be her first time to really do her thing in that character arc too.
Yeah. Completely different creative team for Marvels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, as I've told you, I thought she was great in Marvels. I just think she was asked to do two different things because she was supposed to be a superhero, but a fish out of water. Plus, it was like a buddy comedy between her and Sam Jackson. So I think she was playing like three different characters instead of just one with a clear direction. And I think with Marvel's, like, we're gonna get her with a clear direction. I hope we're gonna get her with a clear direction.
Well, she was the afterthought who was also somehow the most powerful one that could just come in one scene in the biggest movie they've had thus far and do her thing, and boom, we're done. So as far as casting though, I think they knock it out of the park for the most part. And then they course correct, and I think that things are going to be really good moving forward, as disconnected as they may feel. I'm excited.
I agree. Anything else you have before we get out of here?
Not this week, actually. It's a light week. Just shout out to any fan who sees Spidey and keeps your damn mouth shut.
Yeah. I resolved myself to the fact that I'll probably see spoilers. Unfortunate, but I'm also not one who's ever lets spoilers ruin something for me.
And I will say, I, due to some side jobs I have. I did see the toy line 3 weeks ago, so I know exactly what's coming out. And I have not said a word to any human. I haven't even uttered it to my wife because I'm not that guy. So see the movie, tell people you love it, tell people you hate it, and then just shut the hell up and sit on it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. And just for whoever, maybe 3, 5, 6 people listening, just that's the cool thing to do. It's the right thing to do. This movie is going to play in many generations of fans, from comic book reading and all that stuff. And we all know the gravity of it. So just be hushed.
Yeah, as you know, 2 of my good friends from the Dumb Marks podcasts, which you can follow on YouTube and Spotify and wherever else you find podcasts, they happen to do the planograms at Target. So I know they've definitely seen toys that spoil things in the past and have mentioned that they have, but won't say anything. And so I'm pretty sure that's the same case here. And the 2 of them won't mention anything. And that's just the way to be. That's how it goes. Like, I feel like if I were to send them a text, I could find out, but I won't send them a text, and I don't think they'll just volunteer that information out there. And
well, so for instance, how the Eternals was bumped for like 8 months. That first Marvel Legends toy line was already in stock at one of the places where I help. So like the Eros announcement, I was holding his Marvel Legends figure, so it's like, just be cool and just shut up after seeing this stuff. And the enjoyment you get from seeing something, let somebody else have that enjoyment. I'm not one, somebody could tell me the full movie of something that happens, and I'm not going to let it get me down because I'm all about my experience. But I have some very heady friends where if I tell them something's going to happen, then it happens. Or if I break a surprise, that could have been their moment to really connect with the film. So just don't be the I see dead people, sixth sense people, and just let this happen organically for everybody. Contain your excitement. Let your excitement build on the excitement of others, but do it in a very ambiguous way. And if you want to see what that looks like, check out my spoiler-free review on Out of the Panel Comics on Thursday night, right after I see this movie. I'm doing it for a few platforms, so it will be there. It will be completely spoiler-free. Unless I get Japanese Spider-Man, I will not keep that in. So just be cool. Just avoid stuff you don't want to hear about it, and just be cool.
So, yeah, I just have one last thing because I'm looking at my image here on our screen and I'm seeing the hat Darkwing Duck. And I want Timothy Olyphant to voice Darkwing Duck. And I want his good buddy, Conan O'Brien, to be Launchpad.
Then who's going to be Bushroot?
You know what? Let's just get a whole justified. Let's get Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins is Bushroot. I'm all in. Let's do it.
I think this would be perfect.
It's time to write a letter.
Okay. We have, well, tonight, by the time people listen to this, we'll be doing Battle of the Ballads 2015, which for me was a good year. I don't know about you. I don't want to spoil anything who's going to listen, but 2 albums I absolutely love by bands I absolutely love came out in 2015, and a 3rd album that I thought came out in 2015 that I absolutely love did not come out in 2015. So a little bit of disappointment in that, but I thought 2015 was a great year. My list has been done because I've been so excited about it. So I will see you tomorrow for that, Dan. Check out Out of the Panel Comics. Check out Gary B. And check out Cool Points.
Always.
All right. Thank you so much, Dan.
All right, my friend. I'll see you soon.